The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondel.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Stage Door Show tonight. This is Dave Hondel. I couldn't be happier to have tonight's guest, Lydia Look. She's been somebody that we wanted to have on the show, so I'm so glad that she's here with us, and so we'll bring her in. So welcome to the show, Lydia.
Hello, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know, Lydia, I can't thank you enough for being on the show, because I know you're getting ready to do some personal appearances for General Hospital with some of your friends that are on the show. And you know, we had Perry Shen on last week, and some of the fans in the soap opera world, and I know that you've been doing this for a few years with General Hospital, but you've done a ton of episodes, and so you've really got your feet wet in soap operas in the last couple of years. I'm amazed how the fans are so rabid with soap operas, and you know, that's for you as you know, being such a big part of the show. You know, that's got to be for you. I mean, it's amazing probably to meet these people and to just, you know, hear their stories about how long they've been watching the show and about your character. And so it's got to be fun for you to do that.
I think you've completely hit the nail on the head about the fans on daytime soap opera. Never have I met fans that are so intense. I mean, they really follow every single thing on the show. And they're incredible fans. I'll just have to tell you this. Coming from a world where, you know, I'm kind of a, you know, I go on a lot of people's shows, you know. I'm like a guest star, you know. I come in, I'm like a traveling person most of the time. I'll come hit a show, NCIS or whatever, and I'm off,
Sure.
right? So I never get fans that are so dedicated, you know, in following me, in doing something, you know, or a particular role. Never have I met that kind of intensity. And I think it only exists in daytime. Because I think our daytime audience are a very unique bunch of people.
Yeah.
You know, they take their daytime viewing pleasures very seriously. And I really respect that. I have to tell you, because I believe, especially in today, all right, let's not even talk about what's happening in the world, but
Right.
I believe more than ever, escapism is so necessary right now, you know.
Yeah.
Whether it be in music, in dance, in comedy, or soap opera, which I think, you know, it just, our fans live the lives of the characters on the soap opera. I think that's really the best way to kind of sum it up. And then they, you know, when they get into when they really get into it, I think some of them, or I won't say most of them, but I think a lot of them do, you know, pick their favorites, you know, who their favorites are. And then their favorites start becoming almost like avatars, like their avatars, you know, like say, for example, you, Dave, say, for example, maybe in your youth, you were a motorcycle, leather wearing, you know, jacket, heavy metal kind of guy. And, you know, you love your Harley
How
or
did
whatever.
you know?
So if you, well, you know, I'm kind of looking at you and I'm like making my actor summation, my quick 5-minute, you know, thing. I could be totally off, but, you know, I have to make a strong choice
Sure.
every time I do something. So it's more interesting that way.
Yeah.
So I would think that if you watched General Hospital back in the day, or well, now we don't. Well, now actually we do have one. Your character would be Drew. You'd choose
Sure.
Jason Morgan's twin, and he's kind of like the, you know,
Sure.
you know, he's the bad. Well, not the
Bad
bad
one.
guy. He's the stone cold silent guy.
Sure. Right. Right.
But all the women just drop their panties for. You know, every single woman wants to have a baby with him,
Sure.
except for my character. Yeah.
Right.
Well, the character is. Yeah. But anyway, I think that would be your avatar. You'd be like totally into
Yeah.
it.
Well,
So especially with my character, you know, I think a lot of women, I have a lot of women fans.
yeah. Right.
And when they see me, this 5'3", 100-pound, well, no, I'm actually more than that. Well, let's just leave it at 100. I'm a 100-pound, you know, Asian girl. And they're thinking, you know, I mean, because representation really does matter. I'll have to tell you. And it's such a breath of fresh air to see somebody like me calling all the shots on the show.
Yeah.
You know, So
Well, I
that's
mean,
very
Selina
refreshing.
Wu is your character, and I know
Yeah.
that like I mean, you've been in several episodes. I want to say about 70 episodes or more, right? I mean,
Yes,
a
that's
lot of
correct.
episodes, and you know, just you know, what I guess what amazes me with soap operas is that General Hospital and Days of Our Lives and All My Children, all these shows have been around for years, and not only just years, but they come up with material every single weekday. It just blows my mind how it's
Highly
been able
creative.
to
Yeah.
sustain, for so long. Because you see, sitcoms and all these shows that only last a season, maybe two seasons, then people go on to
Yeah.
something else. I mean, but this is
Yeah.
like it just keeps going, and you keep getting these fans, and then some of these fans now maybe were watching it with their moms, their grandmas
Exactly.
growing up.
Intergenerational. Yeah,
Yeah.
completely. You have granddaughters, daughters, and grandmothers all at the convention. And that's really beautiful. They come as
Yeah.
a family. I just recently had a podcast experience with a 15-year-old girl who hosted us. And she did it because she told us she started watching it with her nana. You know what I mean? And
Oh,
then that
sure. Yeah.
became, yeah. So she's a big General Hospital fan. And I felt that to be so refreshing because she's 15.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
our fans are not usually 15 years old.
Right.
But, to have
Yeah.
a
Typically
15-year-old
not.
fan, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was really great. Yeah.
Well, and also, I love this too because you did a lot of episodes of the Proud Family and, these animated cartoons, and you did several voices, I think, for the Proud Family, right? I mean, you did like
Yeah. When I
triplets
started
or
out in, yeah, when I
yeah,
started out in season one, I did all three. It was the triplets, the
yeah.
Chang triplets. So it was one boy and two girls.
How was that to do? I mean, voice acting like that, where you can get in front of a microphone and just kind of just let loose and play these different people. I mean, I think it's incredible.
I think it's a great opportunity to just let you freak out. Yeah. And I take every, and I just totally enjoy it because here you are in a room and all you have is a stone cold microphone in front of you.
Yeah.
And it's almost like being a writer with a blank piece of paper.
Right.
It's all yours, dude. You've got nobody to blame if it fails because you're not playing off anybody,
Yeah.
right? It's a solitary acting experience, kind of, you know.
Yeah.
So I really love it. I love getting into voices is a big thing, for me. And I wrote one episode in season one, which was really great.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
That's exciting.
yeah,
So how
yeah.
does that process work because I know a lot of, actors become writers and sometimes they write first, act, second, but how does that, how do you get commissioned, I guess, to write for an episode? How does that process work like that for our listeners?
Actually, for me, on the Proud Family, what really happened was, I mean, I don't know if you know, I also have a life as a writer. I mean, I don't usually mix the two
Sure.
together, but I do. I've written for Disney Channel. I've done animation. I've written for animation. I've written for primetime television.
Wow.
I really got into it. I actually, it's such a talk about the word freak. I mean, it's just a freak thing.
Right.
I went to USC Film School. And in my
Oh,
second year, I wrote a screenplay, and one of my professors, not accidentally, but I think he submitted it to somebody, and they read it, and I got an episode on a TV show. And
wow.
immediately, I was very lucky. I joined the union. I got
That's
into
great.
WGA. If we want to talk a little bit about how I got the episode, we can dig a little deeper into that, but it gets a little bit. Well, why not? Since we're talking about we're talking
Absolutely. I'd
about
love to
everything.
know about that.
Yeah, so it's great that I mean I was really I think I was really shocked that my freelance episode or my freelance script was able to garner me something, a job like this. And I was
Right.
very young at that time. I think I was still actually in USC Film School.
Wow.
I didn't know anything. I didn't have an agent. I just really didn't know anybody.
Right.
But I think actually ignorance is truly bliss in a way, because I think had I known really what the obstacles were ahead of me, I wouldn't even have tried.
Yeah.
I just wrote a screenplay that was very dear to my heart that actually got me a lot of attention in the business, because when it went out, it got me this episode for television, and it got me a deal with Samuel Goldwyn for a while. They optioned the script, but and the script never got made. But I optioned that script maybe 10 times in the industry, and I made a good living as a as a USC student that didn't have any. I was a scholarship student. I didn't have any money, so that was really good. I optioned it over and over. But that is in hindsight. Had I known what I was doing, maybe I would have sold it. But I was so ignorant. I really didn't know anybody. I didn't have anybody in the business, and I didn't know anybody in the business.
Yeah.
At that time in the business, I think I also lucked out because I think the business was starting to change a little bit, and I think the powers that were on that show decided that they were going to make representation a little bit more, in the forefront. And so they had an episode that took place in Chinatown.
Okay.
And that was the whole reason. I think that's why I got the episode, because I'm Asian. Because, they wanted an Asian person to, probably write the episode in Chinatown, which I thought was really great. Because, they're actually trying to get a writer that was, authentic to the material.
Right.
And so, and at that time, I think in the business, there weren't many Asian writers.
Right.
And, I don't think many Asian female writers also.
Yeah.
So I think it worked to my advantage.
Yeah. I mean, what are your thoughts on women in the business getting bigger, like writers and directors and producers? And, do you feel that we're getting closer to where we need to be, or is it still far away from where we should be with women in the business?
I think we've shattered so many ceilings, and I think the Me Too movement has been incredible. And I wish that happened when I was starting out, because I certainly suffered a lot from that. And I took about 10 years off writing because of that.
Wow.
I just didn't want to be, that's a whole nother podcast that, it's a darker podcast that we're not going to get into. But I think that whole Me Too movement has really changed the business for us women in a huge way.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm very grateful for it. I wish it was 50 years earlier.
Yeah.
But, everything comes in its due time, and there's a season for everything. And that happened. Yeah. And that totally shattered a lot of ceilings. Not only shattered ceilings, but I think of now when I look at women writers coming out in the business, I think they have such a better environment to be in, a safer environment and a more welcoming environment, and really just a more creative environment, an environment that's not so fraught with other things.
There's more oversight than there was obviously back in the day.
Oh, completely. Yeah. Completely. It was just crazy before the Me Too movement. It was crazy.
Now you obviously told me that you went to USC Film School, but obviously the love of telling stories and the love of getting in front of the cameras or on the stage has to start somewhere. And there's a reason why you went to USC Film School. So where did you get that love of the entertainment business, and where did that start to grow, or when?
Well, then I would have to say it's from my mother.
Okay.
She wanted to be an actress, but she was she never had the opportunity to be an actress. She was born into a family where the women had to support all the men,
Okay.
Well, the men were the princess, and, it was a patriarchy, and, all the women had to work. And she was the most brilliant in the family, but she never went to the university or any of that, because they believed in, funding the boy in the family rather than the girl. So she also wanted, my mother wanted to be an actress, I think, but she never got the opportunity. She became a nurse instead. And she was a wonderful nurse. But so she pushed me, I think, right from the start out the gate. But it wasn't, she didn't push me that much. She didn't need to push me that much. It was really, I already knew, I think at the age of 3 or 4, that I was going to be a writer and an actress.
Wow.
And I was also a director at that time. I was, directing the kids, writing my own plays. I was just starting doing that. So I was already a triple. I was already doing all 3. I think in my own, childlike world.
Hey, it's Dave from the Stage Door Show. Have you ever wanted a digital business card that would speak for you? Well, let me introduce you to TalkingVCard. Imagine this: a business card that doesn't just sit in somebody's wallet, but actively introduces you, shares your latest work, or even a special message. That's what TalkingVCard is all about. It's modern, environmentally friendly. It has been an absolute game changer for networking in this digital age. Now here's the most exciting part. For a limited time, you can get lifetime ownership of your very own TalkingVCard for only $99. Plus, to ensure you're maximizing its potential, they're offering a free consultation to help supercharge your brand. As many of you know, TalkingVCard is a proud VIP sponsor of our show, and I've been using it personally. The feedback has been absolutely amazing. For everyone tuned in right now, if you're looking to make a lasting impression and elevate your brand, I genuinely recommend giving TalkingVCard a try. There's a unique link on our show notes that'll take you straight there. And remember, maybe the next voice somebody hears from a digital card will be yours. Stay creative and stay connected. TalkingVCard. Yeah. What gives you the most pleasure to, in the business? Writing, acting, producing, directing? I mean, what do you feel most comfortable doing?
I really love getting lost in my character's world. So acting is truly a relief for me when I'm really playing somebody else, and that goes in tandem with writing. Because when I'm writing and I'm in the groove, and I'm sure you know that too, because you're a writer. It's not. There's no feeling like that. You're just. It's an all-time high.
Yeah.
So I love those two things. Producing, creative producing is necessary for your own projects and for a lot of things, I think. But I think producing is a whole other ball game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would not say producing right off the bat would be where I would get my best satisfaction. I think if you're talking about an artist high, right? Yeah. Since we're talking about an artist right now,
right?
Another producer might, it's not really, I can do it well, but it's third gear for me, I think. Yeah. Well, if you had to ask me if I wanted to go let's go with gears. If I wanted to go to fifth gear, right. The acting and the writing would be so fun. Yeah.
Well, I talked about this we've had a few actor producers on the show, and one of the things that I find interesting, and everybody says the same thing, but does producing and directing make you a better actor, especially when it comes to like television, when you're looking at the monitor and like what's supposed to be said or what how this
spot on.
It almost makes you a better actor because you know what's going on behind the scenes. And sometimes some actors that have never produced or direct, I think maybe are a step behind when it comes to understanding blocking maybe, or, framing, things like that. I mean, the technical things that you learn as a director, producer, or cinematographer, I mean, that's got to make you a better actor, I would think.
You're so right about that. And I think beyond just in the creative circle of filmmaking, I think that extends all the way down. If you really, truly, I think, want to be a master of your craft as an actor, you should also know everybody else's job on the film set. And I try to make myself very present to that, right down to craft service. Yeah. And, the person the Teamster guy that, brings my trailer in. I try to really appreciate everyone's job, because really, seriously, filmmaking, I mean, the actor is just, if you look at it, and in soap opera actually affords me a very clear eye about this. The actor is really we're just the little icing on the top. Everything that makes everything work is really the crew. Seriously, everybody in the crew, right down to the smallest person, or, you want to say the person who brings out food or whatever craft service. So I think if you want to truly master the craft of, film acting, or being, an actor that works on set, you should totally know everything on set, right down to the grip, the gaffer, everybody. And I think I've become a better actor. Also, because I'm older now and aged and experienced, but also because I think I've also, throughout the years, I've had the opportunity to sort of appreciate, because you have a lot of time, especially when you're on set on movies and stuff, to kind of sit back and look at other people, what they're doing. Yeah. And then you start learning, like the sound guy or whatever, what he does. It's incredible, really. It's a little microcosm of a little village, really.
It's almost like everybody on the team has got to be at their highest level in order to make the production.
And they are.
Right?
Yeah. They're incredible. So you feel so lucky, because you're like a producer has assembled the best people in his opinion for this film. And
Yeah.
these people are all magic crazy. I call
Yeah.
them magic crazy, right? It's each in their own, capacity, whatever they're doing. And can you imagine people with such high vibrations coming together,
Right.
making something? It's incredible.
It's almost like a
It's like
spiritual
making music.
experience.
Yeah, it's making.
Yeah.
So I love the bombination. That's really a word for me. I love to bombinate, like get in the hum of things. And there's
Yeah.
nothing quite like it on a set,
Right.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
If
that
everything's
for me
running
is,
like a well-oiled machine, it's
even if it's not, I
yeah.
love the chaos. Yeah. Of it
Exactly.
all. Yeah.
And that's for our listeners, obviously, with our artists out there. I mean, you know, I always like to ask, what kind of advice that you have, but I want to kind of more specifically ask you your advice on the importance of treating people with respect on the set, no matter who they are, no matter who you run into, casting director, casting receptionist, whoever. What is the importance of treating people with respect in your business, and why is it important?
Very simply, treat others the way you'd like to be treated. Just that. It's as simple as that. And why wouldn't you? It affords you the best environment that you can be in, the most loving, positive, magical environment. And to cut yourself out of that is just simply silly. That's not
Yeah.
a smart choice, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to appeal to the rational of us out there. I think I don't need to speak to the creatives out there because
Right.
I think they get the vibe. But to people who are, a little, I think sometimes a little bit more practical, even if you take that road of treating others the way you'd like to be treated, I think that's the logical choice. And that's the choice that works the best. Like on my first day on the soap, I was so nervous. Okay.
Yeah.
I really was. I had the best people, like I had the best cast, and I'm not going to get into specifics because that's a whole nother show and it's a whole nother story, but they were so kind to me. And because of their kindness, my magic was able to rise to the occasion. And I always remember that
Yeah.
when I see anybody,
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Always have a kind word for somebody because it's just it makes everything just so much more beautiful. And
Right.
why wouldn't you want beautiful? I'm all for beautiful and for loving.
Yeah.
Seriously,
That's well said. Yeah.
Yeah, it's as simple as that,
It's like
man.
anything you
Yeah.
do. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. That's the way.
Be
you should
kind.
always
Be
treat-
kind to everyone
Exactly.
and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to ask you is, you've been doing this for a lot of years, and, there's probably several, but what was your most challenging, I guess, role that you played, and how did you overcome that challenge, in your role, whatever that was?
Oh, wow. There've been many, but if I have to choose one, I did a film called Paper Tiger, and that was I think it was released in 2020, at the height of the pandemic, and it was an
Yep.
indie movie, and it was based on a true story of a true crime that happened in Rowland Heights, right here in California, about the story was of an immigrant mother. She was a widow, and she discovered, and her son is schizophrenic, and he's in high school, and she discovered that he was going to become a school shooter, like from his journals and stuff.
Sure.
And at that time, the woman was also suffering from cancer. She was also terminal. So it was what happened in the true story was, on the son's birthday, she took the son out for dinner, and then she took the son out to a motel, and then she killed him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because, she had terminal brain cancer. So
Right.
she didn't want her son. She really believed that her son was going to kill, murder.
So in her mind, she was saving lives.
So she shot him and killed him.
Wow.
And she was brought to trial. the funny thing was, the judge asked her how come she didn't kill herself. And she went in front of the judge and she told the judge that she wanted the judge to know that she did that she was his mother and she was responsible for him.
Yeah.
And that's why she did that.
Oh,
She died
okay.
like 6 months later after she was sentenced.
Wow.
But we made a movie about that story and it was called Paper Tiger.
It's interesting.
And I played the role of the mother.
Yeah.
And it was a very, very small independent film. Talk about independent. I think it was made for very little money by a wonderful team. Michael Chow, who was also one of the executive producers of Fruitvale Station. He was one of our executive producers.
Sure.
Paul Kowalski, who's a wonderful director, directed it, and wrote it and directed it. And we had a really wonderful cast and crew. And that for me was a real special experience because I went through the whole gamut.
Yeah.
Of the character, and the story was it struck a chord with me, and it was it was a very sad story.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think it was needed to be told because mental illness, I feel, especially in this society in America, it's very much swept under the rug.
And I've always advocated for that. My father committed suicide when I was 7, and I don't mind talking about it, and I think that if we talk about more,
exactly, the stigma is gone.
Exactly, the stigma is not going to stick around. So that's one thing I like to talk about on our show. So again, like you said, mental illness, for all those listening out there, make sure that you get help if you need help, and reach out to me and I can give you resources. So go onto my website and contact me if you need resources. But the last thing I want to ask you, Lydia, is when it's all said and done, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to walk away with when they hear Lydia Look?
Oh my God. I've really, really, not in my sphere. I've never thought about a legacy, really, of leaving anybody a legacy or anything. Seriously, what I'd like people to remember me for, it'd be great to be remembered for making someone laugh. I think that's, or bringing joy to someone. So if someone remembers me because I've made them laugh, I think I'd be very happy with that. But more than that, somebody who probably would say something like, "Oh yeah, I remember her. She was real nice," or she was real cool. We had a good time. We had a good laugh together. Or I remember her because she made me feel, she made me feel funny, or she made me feel, she made me feel something. She made me feel something. That would be really cool.
That's awesome.
Then I've done my job as a writer and an actor. I made you feel something, right?
Yeah. And
hopefully it's positive.
Like you said,
yeah.
Right? That's what we all need right now is, just coming out of a pandemic. Now we've got all the stuff happening overseas.
Oh my God. So much strife.
Fires in Hawaii,
yes. And so much strife.
So much everywhere. I mean, every time you turn the news on, there's always something happening, earthquakes or whatnot. And it's just
really
count your blessings,
it's mind numbing.
It could always be worse. That's one thing, always put things into perspective and that's the one thing, help when you can and always, pray for those people that are less fortunate. And because there's a lot of it going on right now, but yeah, I mean,
absolutely
what you're doing in your acting, and writing cohorts and everybody that's making us escape or helping us escape, for a little bit anyway. I think it's an amazing thing that you guys do. And I just, can't thank you enough as somebody who's, a watcher of this and, and something that, we just, like I said, we appreciate it. And can't thank you enough for being on my show and for offering advice to my listeners. And, just thank you so much.
You're so sweet, Dave. Thank you for having this platform for everyone. That's a really good thing. It's a really, really good thing.